Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to look at some horror films that had really cool melting effects. So seeing someone melt in a horror film is something that's kind of seldom talked about. You don't really hear it discussed much, but I think when it's done good, a melting effect can be really cool and really awesome to see in a film. So I've got a few films which had really memorable melting effects, and a few of these films that actually people melting was the focus of the plot. So I'm going to go through these. So the first film is Devil's Reign, which is not a film that I think you put on expecting a melting kind of theme. This is more of like a religious horror film. It sees William Shatner battling a satanic cult in like the desert, and they kind of go back and forth throughout the film. There's a really good cast in this. You got William Shatner, Ernest Borgnine, Ida Lupino, John Travolta, Tom Skerritt, Keenan Wynn, loads of people, good and bad, going at it. And then towards the end of the film, kind of hell really does break loose, and we see this kind of unholy congregation, and numerous people are just melted down in what is maybe actually the best melting special effects I've seen in any film, because it's just, yeah, the effects are so vast. It's like they throw everything at this scene and just showcase different ways to melt people down, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's just great. It looks fantastic. It's relentless. It's disgusting and gooey, but looks really cool, and is a great climax to this pretty decent religious horror film. But it's very kind of held back for most of the movie, and then just lets rip towards the end in this amazing over the top melting scene. So definitely a film I could recommend if you want to see a good showcase of that kind of effect, and it's done really well and it's totally awesome. So first movie on this list is The Devil's Reign. Okay, the next film on this list is probably my favourite film on the list, and it gets quite a lot of bad reviews to be fair, but I absolutely adore it, and that is The Incredible Melting Man, which is a favourite of mine from childhood. I remember watching this as a kid and just finding it fascinating. This is about this astronaut. I think he goes up to Saturn, and I think the rings of Saturn have an effect on him, and they kill the other astronauts, but he makes it back down to Earth. However, the result of whatever he's been exposed to leads to his flesh slowly melting, and as a side effect of that, he develops a taste for human flesh. So he escapes from this hospital, and he's shuffling around the countryside, slowly starting to melt, but also attacking everyone that he comes into contact with, and killing them because he's got a craving for human flesh. And it all just descends into this sort of messy melting finale, which I just think is absolutely wonderful. But Incredible Melting Man, it's such a wonderful film. I love the story. I love the setting of him going around the countryside. The effects are fantastic. It's Rick Baker that designed The Incredible Melting Man, and this is one of my favourite films from being a kid. I remember finding this. It was released by Vipco, and I was somewhere, and there was a bunch of Vipco video titles that I was looking at, and this one, it had the astronaut on the cover with all this blood, and I just remember being fascinated about this movie and this incredible melting man, and buying it just to see what happened in the film, and I've just always loved this one. So yeah, Incredible Melting Man, in terms of the plot, maybe the best one on this list. I don't know, but it's a great film. Highly recommend that one. Okay, next up, couldn't leave this movie off the list. Had to include Robocop for the famous melting scene with the guy, one of the bad guys. I think he's attempting to drive a truck into Robocop, misses him and crashes into a vat of toxic waste, which leads to probably the most famous melting scene from any movie, where he gets out the truck and he's melting basically, and it looks amazing. It looks absolutely fantastic, and like I say, yeah, probably the most famous one on this list. So had to include that one. So we go from the most famous one to probably the rarest thing in my collection. I don't know, but this has a little movie called Slime. Now, this is only like a 10-minute thing, pretty much done on an amateurish level, of this guy kind of this in the backwoods, and he goes out and he starts messing around with this meteor that's recently fallen to the earth. He gets back home and just slowly starts to melt, and that's it. It's just his quick 10-minute short, but I really liked it. It was a really cool, just little thing that somebody had made. And the interesting thing about Slime is I actually know nothing about it. I picked this up at a movie convention a few years ago, just grabbed it up with about 20-30 other movies, so it wasn't until I got it home I just realised that I don't know anything about it, and never seen anyone else talk about this or have this or anything like that. But it was a really cool, I guess, little project that somebody did with fantastic special effects and this guy slowly melting down. Really cool. So thought I'd just give that one a quick mention, but I don't know where you'd even find this, to be honest. Okay, next up is a really cool movie which, again, not many people talk about, and that is Slime City, which is a really good one. Real kind of like scuzzy one. I think it's got that scuzzy New York feel to it, of this guy. He moves into this apartment, and I can't remember why now, but he again, he ends up melting down. He slowly starts to melt over the course of the film. And, oh, here we go. He falls victim to bloodthirsty supernatural forces. And, yeah, he slowly starts to melt over the course of the film. And tries to bandage himself up, but he's just covered in goo and slime. Really cool movie for the effects, and I think he ends up killing people towards the end, and it's a really good scuzzy B-movie exploitation film. But not many people talk about this one. It does go under the radar. It's very silly, but if you want to see a fun, pretty sort of gooey film, this is definitely a top recommendation for that. For a really good movie. So that is Slime City. Okay, next up we have Street Trash. So this is I think it's this new like alcoholic drink going around, which causes people who drink it to melt. And this one mainly affects the homeless community. They're all drinking it in like the paper bags, and it has the famous scene of the homeless guy drinking it on the toilet, and then he proceeds to of course melt down the toilet. It's a really good plot. It's a film that I wish I enjoyed more. I've watched Street Trash a few times, thinking that I'm really gonna like it and that it's right up my street. But other than kind of the melting effects in it, particularly that initial one where the guy goes down the toilet, it doesn't do a lot for me. But I need to rewatch it because I do want to like this one more than what I do. But this is a very popular exploitation B movie, so I know a lot of people out there do enjoy this one. It's definitely got its great special effects, and it's a fun kind of Troma-esque type film. I just think for this one, the famous special effect that you see is definitely the best thing about this movie, but worth watching just for that alone. And then the last movie on this list, I thought I'd throw this one in, is The Stuff. Again, really cool B movie from the 80s about The Stuff, which is this like food product, this sort of gelatinous white food product that's taking the country by storm. Everybody wants it and wants to eat it, but when you do, it kind of just melts you away. And there's the really cool scene of the guy that eats it and then his face starts to melt down. Really cool stuff, and Michael Moriarty has to try and get to the bottom of it and find out what's going on. But there's some really cool people eating it and then melting special effects in this one that I really do appreciate. So that is a few what I think are really cool melting horror films. Like I say, this seems to be a bit of an overlooked kind of subgenre and effect, so I just thought I'd throw some of these out there and see if anyone else is a fan of these as well. If there's any more melting horror movies out there that you think is really good, definitely let me know. I'll certainly check them out. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.